You think email marketing for your store is hard? Imagine having over 100,000 SKUs and the person running your Klaviyo just quit. We're the #1 email marketing agency in Canada, and we do lifecycle for 8- and 9-figure e-commerce companies, and this was one of the most complex and fun rebuilds we've ever had. Today, I'm gonna walk you through the entire thing, what we fixed, what we inherited, and how we took their email from $450,000 a month to over $1.27 million in a month in 4.5 months. I'll show you the exact framework, and honestly, if email keeps falling to the bottom of your priority list, today I'm gonna show you what it's actually costing your e-commerce brand. Before I show you a single number, I need you to understand something, because this isn't just about a hobby store, it's probably your story too. This is 401 Games, one of the biggest hobby and collectible retailers in Canada. Board games, trading cards, Pokemon, Magic the Gathering, Warhammer miniatures, you name it. Walk down any of these aisles and you start to see the problem. Your store might have a few 500 SKUs, thousands of SKUs, but these guys have over 100,000 SKUs. That means 100,000 potential out of stock and over 100,000 recommendations they can make to each of their customers. But here's the important thing to know. The team at 401 Games, they're not an incompetent team. In fact, they're probably like you, where email is just getting deprioritized because there's always something to do. Ads, Comic-Con, major events that were coming up, inventory, stock problems. Email was just at the bottom of the list. And that's exactly what happened here. You're gonna see live what happens when email goes to the bottom of the list over and over again and what it's truly costing you. So here's what we found when we opened the hood. The welcome series itself, the pop-ups were slow. They weren't loading for everyone, and that meant not a lot of people were actually opting into the list. They didn't want to do any offers because they didn't need to give away any margin to get people to sign up, and transparently, they had no margin to give away. Next, the abandoned checkouts. They weren't actually performing. They were super basic. The logic was not advanced to their customer types and all the various different things you can buy. And so we had to fix that too, but I'll get back to that. Last, the segments we were sending to were extremely small. They had customers who had interests and would target them accordingly, and didn't really create any dynamic campaigns that could reach a broader audience and convert more people at one time. And here's the part that kills me. The team almost considered cutting Klaviyo entirely because the cost of the platform actually outweighed the return they were getting. To speak completely directly about this, it's not a platform problem. Most teams have 10 other things on their plate, and no one's actually steering the ship of Klaviyo, an extremely robust platform that allows you to do a lot with your customers. They simply had no one steering the ship. So when we came in, we didn't start by sending more emails. We actually started by fixing their entire infrastructure. Think of it like this. Your campaigns are the fuel and your flows are the engine. If your engine is broken, your welcome series is leaking, and your checkout abandonment isn't performing, and your segments are too small to even drive real revenue, pouring more fuel simply makes it a bigger mess. So step 1 was rebuilding the engine. This is where every customer starts, the front door. In Klaviyo and e-commerce, that's your welcome series. We rebuilt the entire thing from the ground up. The pop-up timing was wrong. The offers were generic discount codes that actually didn't even pop up till it was too late. And so we actually changed it to things customers wanted. If I was searching for a Pokemon card, is it gonna be in stock the next time I check? And for the business, where it helped is making sure that our customers knew exactly when the product they wanted was in stock before our competitors let them know. So we turned the value proposition into something customers actually wanted. The flow itself, we used it to build trust. We talked about why 401 Games is the best choice, from being here for over 30 years and using its heritage as an advantage. In e-commerce, when someone can't actually come to the retail storefront, that almost means everything. And after building the trust, we created a clear hierarchy between each of the automations so that if you were on the welcome, we were actually utilizing it to just build trust. And if you were on something like viewing a product, we were able to get you to view it again and potentially add it to your cart. And quick win for anyone watching. If you have a welcome series and an abandoned checkout, it's likely that they might actually be shooting at the same exact time. And so you want to ensure your flows are not competing against each other like we did for 401 Games. Setting up the proper exclusions, the right inclusions, allows you to build a customer journey that builds trust, converts customers, and the single fix of making sure your flows are not cannibalizing each other can take your email revenue from being 20% of your store's total to actually driving incremental growth in the 30% overall attributed rate. And see how much variety there is in the store? We have board game customers as well as Pokemon customers. Two different types of people who shop at different frequencies, are looking for different things, and at the end of the day are completely different buyers for 401 games. And so for them, they believed segmenting as niche and narrow as possible allowed them to make the most revenue from very specific customer types. The old segmentation was based on individual SKUs, which caused us to show them nothing but the thing they were interested in, but they were only sending to 2% of the entire list. And we changed that. Do you see how different the products are? From Pokemon all the way to board games. 401 Games is serving different types of customers, people who shop at different frequencies, have different interests, and have different buying patterns all together. Now, the problem with their segmentation was if I bought a Pikachu, they were segmenting me on a single SKU level instead of the entire category of Pokemon. And we took an approach that sounds slightly counterintuitive, but instead of sending to a customer because they purchased a specific product, we sent to them based on the specific category. If they were Pokemon shoppers, we were educating and talking a lot more about Pokemon specifically. And if they were Lego shoppers, we were actually telling them about the new Lego collections that came out, grouping them into smarter collections of buyers. And instead of sending to 2% of the list, we started sending to portions that made up 10 to 15% of the list during each send, which allowed us to send very smartly. And more importantly, it helped us make more revenue and stay relevant to our customers. So we broke the segmentation down into 3 pillars. Pillar 1 was shopping by the actual category. So if you like Lego, you shop for Lego. Pillar 2 was the actual behavior and engagement of a customer. There are a lot of customers. If you look over there's actually a ton of customers who buy Pokemon cards very, very frequently, some who are even playing, versus other customers who actually just come to buy one Lego set or one Pokemon card for Christmas. And so the purchasing frequency and buying behavior of these customers was the second way we were able to ensure we had different groups and different segments to send to. And for the special occasions, we'd send to the infrequent customers. And for the new releases and launches, if we felt someone was interested based off their buying behavior, we'd send them an email more frequently. Pillar 3 was something not a lot of people talk about, but product affinity. As we found trends where people liked certain types of product, and sometimes it was as nuanced as closed Pokemon cards versus open Pokemon cards, we were actually able to have smarter sending dedicated to those individual segments to really narrow down who we're talking to and cater to them better as well. With all that being said, we still had to back up the segments with a proper exclusion structure. We had 12 different segments we used to ensure we weren't reaching out to people who are wasting our time, which helped us improve our deliverability score 40% all the way past 90%. We built 12 suppression layers, invalid email, bounced email, spam markers, our sunset segments, and so many more. Because as we were expanding our reach, we also had to ensure that we weren't ruining our deliverability, and everyone we were now reaching out to, our emails were actually landing in their inbox. Now remember the abandoned checkout I mentioned, where they were only making $22,000 a month from a basic flow? Let me show you what we did to it and how it improved. The abandoned checkout, one of the first flows we actually completely fixed, from having the basic logic to advanced segmentation, smart sending, and changing the emails from a basic "you left your stuff behind" to driving urgency, scarcity, and real-time updates on the products that they did not finish purchasing. It changed the revenue every single month from $22,000 all the way to $127,000 every month. That was a 580% increase on the revenue they were generating, simply because we were able to make one automation extremely personalized. And what's more important, extremely personalized and designed to actually convert customers rather than bump them with reminders. And that's only one out of the 7 other automations we were able to enable in the first month that drove hundreds of thousands of dollars in revenue. And that was just abandoned checkout. We also added an added to cart, browse abandonment, site abandonment, post-purchase journey, and cross-sell automation. All automations that were foundational that were there, and as we were able to make it more advanced, we added an extra $731,000 every single month. And that's simply the foundational flow. And here's what I intentionally held back. In phase 2, there's win-back flows, different collections, as well as more complex machine learning automations like your predicted data next order for customers. However, there's one core philosophy our team operates on, which is when their foundational automations are not in place and we're not able to actually create a foundation to help sustainably grow companies, there's no point in adding complexity. And so before jumping and trying to set up 12 or 18 different automations, we focused on the core 7 that allowed us to sustainably scale 401 Games to add millions of dollars every single year, but more importantly, do it in a way where they didn't break any of their systems and were able to layer in these advanced automations in a later phase. And I want to emphasize, for your brand, if you're adding complexity before you've even got the basics simplified as well as done right, you're missing a ton of revenue and you're probably chasing after another tactic that doesn't make sense. And if you're watching this and you want to learn how you can actually apply some of these strategies to your business, it's likely that you can book an audit call with us. I don't do this very often, but every time we post a video, we do try to make sure that you can go more in depth on your business with your email marketing. So if you're interested, book an audit call and let's get back into the video.
All right, so jumping into the office to share some quick numbers. Before we opened the account, the total monthly Klaviyo revenue was $451,000. The flow revenue accounting for $12,300 a month, and the campaigns itself accounting for $439,000 a month. But that was only reaching a very small portion of the list, and the average order value was $140. After we came on board, 4.5 months later, the total monthly Klaviyo revenue was $1.256 million. The flow revenue alone, $496,000 in 1 month. That's a 40x increase, 4,000% growth on just flows alone. The campaign revenue was up $760,000 a month, up 73%, and we unlocked an additional $30,000 to $50,000 a month in just the segmentation rebuild, and that's us ramping up. The average order value, $155, up almost 11%. So even though we had way more conversions, they were all still worth more. The flow conversions went from 63 per month to 4,671 per month. That's a 7,300% increase in conversions directly. The total monthly increase, 178%, from 450 to $1.257 million in 4.5 months. And that should really make you think. Investing in retention just seems like a headache until you actually get it done right and you see how significant ROI can be simply because you're optimizing around your customers rather than optimizing around your acquisition sources. Now, before we came in, the Klaviyo platform alone was more expensive than the results it was generating, and the team that was considering cutting it entirely now uses it to account for majority of their profit in e-commerce sales. The platform not only pays for itself, but pays for itself before the month even gets started. With all that being said, I want you to keep in mind that this was all results in 4.5 months. Thankfully, with retention, the more data we collect, the longer and more sustainable the results actually get. We get to compound on decisions we made, and we get more revenue to build more infrastructure, which allows us to not only have a great revenue channel from retention, but it also creates a great customer experience. And with that being said, I will let you head back to the video.
Look, I didn't show you this just to show you that a massive retail company is doing it better than your e-commerce brand. I showed you because I think you can do it too. You're running an e-commerce store, maybe doing 5, 10, or even $50 million. Email falls on your plate either directly or because you're accountable for the results of it. And you're not bad at your job. That's actually the problem. You're competent enough to see where email is and the gap between where it should be. You've had your CSMs, maybe even an agency, maybe even your own internal team, but you've hit a ceiling. Whatever the setup, you know it can be significantly better. You just can't get there with what you currently have. And meanwhile, email keeps getting deprioritized. There's always something more urgent like ads, inventory, your teammates, site redesign, product launch, the new meta algorithm. Email is never on fire and it will never be on fire. So it never gets fixed. What you just watched and the results I talked about is what happens when you finally take emails off your plate and do it right. 401 Games didn't need a miracle. They needed their foundations fixed. Flows before campaigns, segmentation built on real customer behaviors, actual infrastructure over tactics, and someone who's done this at scale enough to understand that it's being done right. We were able to pull the levers and know exactly where they are. That's it. That's the framework. Once again, flows before campaigns. Fix the engine, not pour fuel on it. Segmentation based on behavior. Don't shrink your audiences too small and don't make them too big. We need to ensure all our emails are landing in the inbox. And infrastructure over tactics. No fancy subject lines, no fancy softwares, just ensuring we set up the right automations at the right times so their customers can convert. You don't need 100,000 SKUs for this to work. Even if you've got 1 or 500, it'll work the same. If you're watching this and you think my email could probably be more, it probably should. Our team will do a free audit of your Klaviyo account where we'll actually grade your current system to where it should be for your current level. And if you want a breakdown of exactly what you should be doing next to achieve the same level of results that 401 Games was with us, you can go ahead and book a call down below and we'll give you the exact framework we use for our other e-commerce companies, exactly what you should be doing next to succeed. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe and let us know